What's up, everybody? Luke Film Boss here, and today I'm going to be reviewing Sonic the Hedgehog 2. The first thing I want to talk about is the humor in this movie, but before I talk about the humor in Sonic, I want to be able to make a comparison to another very popular pop culture franchise, the MCU. And the MCU, as of late, has produced very superficial humor in their films, where they are just so dry and on the surface and don't really fit the characters or the scenarios that's being portrayed in their films. I think what Marvel did is they saw how it worked with Guardians of the Galaxy, and that was hilarious. And then they're like, let's do that with every single movie, and it just didn't work. Sonic 2, although I was afraid it would by the trailers, did not have that problem. This movie is hilarious. Like, I legitimately burst out laughing in the theater multiple times with it was a real laugh. It wasn't just a chuckle. It was a full blown out laugh. I really liked the comedic aspects of this movie. The jokes and the scenarios are actually written very well and are funny and actually fit the characters who are producing the joke or the scenario. And I just really appreciated that this film was actually funny. Tails and Knuckles were a great addition to this film. Tails just had this adorable personality, and I liked his little quirks and his own special unique abilities that he uses to help Sonic. Now, Tails' reason for being in this movie doesn't quite make sense. It's like he saw Sonic's big power surge from the first movie, and then that led him to Earth, and then he just keeps an eye on Sonic for a while, and then when he finds out Knuckles is coming, for some reason, I don't even know how he found out that Knuckles was coming to Earth to get Sonic, but he does, and so he goes to warn Sonic, and then he doesn't even make it to warn Sonic in time, but then he's just going to leave. After he was going to warn Sonic, he was just going to leave after that, and so it's what purpose does Tails even have for being here? That was his original goal, was just to warn Sonic about Knuckles, and then he failed at that, and then the rest of the movie, it's okay. Sonic pulls Tails into this adventure, and it's a lot of fun. But just the reason Tails was there in the first place is kind of okay, that could have been written a little bit better. But overall, Tails was fun. Idris Elba as Knuckles is kind of I don't know. Surprisingly, it was kind of a stroke of genius. It was brilliant casting Idris Elba as Knuckles. He's done voice acting before in The Jungle Book, with Shere Khan, or Zootopia, where he plays the bull guy. It's Idris Elba, he's a very talented actor, whether it's live action or an animated character, but he just worked really well as Knuckles, and I loved Knuckles' personality. Knuckles could be intimidating at times, despite being this animated animal thing. That's not really that scary looking. It's kind of cute in some ways, but yet he somehow makes it somewhat intimidating at times. And Knuckles is powerful. He is powerful. He is determined. He is a no funny business kind of guy. I really just liked how Knuckles is naive, yet very respectable as a villain and just as a character in this movie. I just loved what they did with Knuckles. I don't want to spoil anything about it, but Knuckles was very well written, and he had his own funny moments as well. Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik / the Eggman was as fun and over the top as he was in the first film, and just as over the top as Jim Carrey is in all of his movies. And it just works so well. And Dr. Robotnik was even able to be menacing and kind of, like I said, with Knuckles, intimidating at some points. It was very well done. And Robotnik actually poses a very strong threat. I felt like there was actually much higher stakes with Robotnik in this film than there was in the first film. He is much more evil. He's much more, he's seeking revenge, but he's also still after that unlimited power. And this movie just goes bigger with everything. I love the scope of this film. The first film was just kind of Sonic in a regular suburb town. This time it's a full globe trotting adventure, and it's a blast. Sonic was just a little blue ball of fun like he was in the first film, And then there's the human characters. They're almost all returning. There was a few, maybe one or two new human characters, but they don't really add much to this movie. They played much more of an integral role in the first film. In this film, they add some good stuff, but they could have technically been taken out, and not much of the plot would have changed. To add to the script and how the script could have been rewritten a little bit is that there was a lot of plot conveniences in this movie, especially in the first half, where things just happen out of convenience to help the characters get from point A to point B without the characters actually having to put in any effort into progressing the plot or solving the problem. But this is balanced out a little bit. Like, it is a problem, but it doesn't really hinder the movie too much because the villains do pose a very strong threat and problem for our heroes to overcome. There were also a few moments in this movie where the movie tries to act like there's these high stakes, when in reality the stakes aren't that high, or the solution is just very simple. The first example is Sonic and Tails are in Siberia in like a blizzard, and they find this inn where everybody's like mean and rough and tough, and through miscommunications, these rough, tough people they get angry and are about to throw Sonic and Tails into like this fire, and it's like a standard fire, like it's not anything huge or like intimidating, but the movie acts like, oh, this is like a life or death situation. This is grave, that Sonic and Tails are in grave danger. When in reality, the worst that would happen is they get a little bit burnt, a little bit singed. Then Sonic can use his speed and Tails can use his flying ability, and they can just rush outside, douse the fire in all of the snow, and just hide. And like, they have these superpowers. It's not that big of a deal when some random human dudes are about to throw you into a petty little fire. But the movie, it's obviously framed towards kids, so kids are like, oh no, fire. At least some kids. Some kids would be like, I feel like some kids would just be like, it's a fire. You're gonna get burnt. Who cares? Maybe not all kids would be that way, but it's definitely played out very like childlike. And this leads into like this fun dance battle, and like this whole scene at the Siberian Inn, it like serves a purpose in developing the character of Sonic and Tails, and there are a few elements in the inn scene itself that do play out further, are kind of important to the movie. But then there's this whole 10-minute segment where it's just like getting thrown into the fire, dance battle. It's fun, but it doesn't really progress the plot. And a really good movie is going to progress the plot while developing the characters. This movie kind of just hits pause, and it's like, okay, we gotta create the bond between Sonic and Tails so that they're friends now. And it works. I didn't mind it too much. It was still fun. It just felt like they could have rewritten it so that it made a little bit more sense, that they weren't just posing a fake threat, that there was actually a real threat. And then they could have developed the characters as the movie progressed. And then there's this other scenario where Sonic is he's like trying to escape this avalanche with Tails, and Tails is unconscious. First off, the movie shows Sonic like zipping around over top of mountains and all sorts of stuff like early on in the movie. And like, yeah, he's got to carry Tails, but like, why couldn't he use his super speed to like escape the avalanche? I don't quite get why, especially when we see him do a lot of other really hard things throughout this film. That kind of seemed like, okay, you're just creating a fake scenario to put Sonic in danger. And so Sonic has to call Tom, which is like his human dad. And so he's like, you gotta open the portal with one of those portal ring things and get us out of here. And then Tom's like, okay, he realizes that earlier in the film, he accidentally swapped one of the Sonic rings, his Sonic ring, with a wedding ring, which belongs to his sister-in-law, who's getting married. And so he interrupts the wedding and goes to the groom, and he's like, hey, can you give me that ring? And it's the Sonic ring, but the groom thinks that it's the wedding ring. And so rather than telling the groom that, hey, this is the actual wedding ring, I accidentally misplaced it and switched it with that ring. Can you give me my ring back and I'll give you the wedding ring? And then he could have just done that gone somewhere safe where nobody would see, where it wouldn't ruin the whole wedding, and save Sonic with the ring. But no, he sits there for 30 seconds going, hey, can you give me that ring? I just need the ring. Give me the ring. Trust me, give me the ring. For like 30 seconds. Then in the end, rather than just swap the rings, say, hey, here's your wedding ring. No, he punches the groom in the face, grabs the ring, and just flings it right in front of the whole wedding, causing the avalanche to bust through, ruining the whole wedding, which the wedding was kind of already ruined. And then there's more stuff that happens. But then pretty much because of this dumb decision that could have been easily avoided, it leads to the next plot where Sonic gets captured. I'm not going to explain or spoil why Sonic and Tail get captured, but it's pretty much just because Tom couldn't act like a rational person and just swap the rings, go somewhere hidden, which wouldn't have taken that long, and then just save Sonic and they could have got out of there. But no, then they get captured and we have this like really long segment where there's a lot of these side plots and it creates this whole other scenario that kind of it doesn't progress the plot really at all. Some people would argue, but in reality it could have been cut out and nothing would have changed in the movie. But I guess they wanted to include their human characters. Honestly, this whole middle section that I'm talking about could have just been like a short film and it would have been fine. It was entertaining, it was fine, but the way it's placed into the film, it's just lazy writing. And so obviously it's a kids movie, it's Sonic, and I do think that had the filmmakers and the screenwriters had more time to work on this script, it probably would have been much better. They had to crunch this movie out in like 2 years, and that was during the pandemic. Like the first one came out literally right before the pandemic, and so obviously they had time to write the script during the pandemic, but they also had to rush this movie out, and it turned out pretty well nonetheless. 2 years is the standard time for a sequel to be made, but in the end, it's just like there could have been some things better, but it's overall done pretty well. The visuals were very fun, colorful, and entertaining. The action at some points was a little bit dragged out, but it was entertaining. This movie just a lot of fun. Like some parts could have been trimmed up, could have been written a little bit better, but in the end, it's just a fun movie. So with all that being said, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was a blast. The visuals were good, the action was fun, the characters were fun, this movie was hilarious. The new characters and the old characters all are done very well. They all add something to the movie. And although the message is a little bit overdone, they do it in a little bit of a new way that it definitely earns what it's going for. It's just a fun, very childish at times, but yet still mature enough that it can be entertaining for adults. Sonic the Hedgehog 2, like I said, was an entertaining, fun blast. I really enjoyed it. I give it an 82% in quality and 86% in enjoyment for an overall score of 84%.